Hello and welcome to Cushty TV, always the straight talking YouTube channel where my specialist subjects are boxing and golf, and I interview people of all interest. So before we start today, please press the click and subscribe button. My person of interest today, let me tell you, he's been around the block a bit and he's got some t-shirts. He's one of West London's most notorious fighters. He has had physical encounters with, wait for it, Roy Pretty Boy Shaw, Lenny the Governor McLean, Lenny the Governor McLean, let me get that right, I'm an ex-boxer as well, remember? Arch rival of Muhammad Ali, arguably the greatest heavyweight ever. He's had a physical encounter with this bloke in a boxing ring. And of course, he's come face to face with Britain's supposedly, arguably, hardest prisoner, Charlie Bronson. It's my absolute pleasure, and I do have to thank this gentleman for welcoming me to his fantastic surroundings. Ladies and gentlemen, of course it is, the one and only Ray Bang Bang Hill.
Hello,
thanks, Ray.
Hello,
how are you, mate?
Not too bad, mate. Yourself, good?
Yes, thank you. Right, Ray, so you're a fellow West Londoner, a fellow heavyweight, unlicensed boxer.
Yes, mate.
But let's start, for the viewer out there, let's start, where did it all start? Where were you born? Which part of West London?
Acton. I was born Acton, Churchville Road, Acton. I had two brothers and two sisters.
Yeah.
When I first was in Acton, we only had one brother, one sister, and it was me, so it was two brothers and one sister.
So you're the third of five?
The third one, yeah.
And so it was two brothers, two sisters.
Yeah.
And you had a bigger brother first?
I had a bigger brother, Keith, and my sister died, a bigger sister.
Yeah.
And the two other ones come up later, yeah.
And what's the age difference between you and Keith?
Keith's about
so
77.
he's your senior, what, 4 or 5 years?
Yeah, he's my senior, yeah. My sister's about 73.
Yeah. Okay, so obviously, Ray, I know you're a bit, I've done a bit of research, you know, as we have to do, and I'm hesitant to touch on, that's your early, because the next thing I'm going to touch on, I actually hate to touch on it, but it happened, and in your book it's coming out, you were victim of the worst crime ever, at the hands of a paedophile. I don't want to go into his explicit thing, but you're only about 5-year-old.
Yes, 5 years old I was. My mum couldn't cope with me. I was a little bit of a bad boy at school, you know what I mean? So my mum used to take me down to her brother's house, in Hammersmith, and leave me there. My mum used to have 4 jobs, So in the morning she'd do a cleaning job, in the afternoon another cleaning job, then go to the cinema and come back and do another cleaning job. Like 4 jobs a day, So she couldn't really handle me because I was the youngest one.
She was working hard trying to make ends meet.
And anyway, she took me down to her brother's house, and I used to be there playing around, but in the loft there was a bedroom, and her brother lived there, and he was ex-army, come out of the army, they chucked him out of the army, and we find out all these things later on. Right? He was ex-army, and I used to go up there and play. He used to have medals. I'll be up there playing with him, and he used to sexually abuse me.
I mean, I want to use all sorts of language. I just straight away feel hit dirt. So we won't pay too much attention to that dirty dog, who you know, he's not only abused a child, he's abused a child of his own blood and family. But we'll remove that dirty piece of shit onwards.
I went to school, Joe, and I was still playing up at school. And Miss Pengelly, she was the headmistress, and she said to my mum, look, you can't handle him at school. We're even putting bags around his hands, and he's using them like gloves to fight the kids. We can't handle him. So
was this a result of the anger?
This is the anger.
This is your little mind's all over the place.
And so my mum had to put me in a home in Wales, but I didn't know it was Wales, but obviously just found out. A home in Wales, and she put me there, and I used to, there was a hostel, there were dorms, and I was in a dorm, and there was like not so many girls but more boys, and at night time I used to see them come in and take the kids away, and I was wondering what it was like about an hour, like 2 hours later, because as a kid an hour was a long time, isn't it?
Of course it is,
And you know, and I wondered what was going on. They come back sobbing. Then one day they come and got me, Joe, and took me down to the rooms downstairs, and there was rooms downstairs, and they just put me in a room, and I was sexually abused. Not first of all, they was giving me sweets and make me do things, but after a while it became a norm, you know. every day or every other day sexually abused by these people. And then my mum picked me up after about 4 or 5 months, went back home. But then I told my mum what had happened, but my mum didn't believe me, because when it happened before, my mum mollycoddled me, gave me sweets and everything. So I thought my mum must have thought that I was playing the game again, so I could get sweets and loved and all that game. But later on in life, when I came out of prison, we was watching television. I think I was, I don't know, 55, something like that, and watching telly, it came out on the telly that had place in Wales where we sexually abusing kids, and I cried, Joe. I cried.
Oh, yeah, well, I'm not surprised,
my mum then realised that it was true,
Yeah.
That's that story, Joe, I went through a lot, there's a lot more to it, but that's what happened.
To encounter that happening twice, it must have been. In fact, it's remarkable where I know you've fallen foul of the law, but it's remarkable how you've dusted down in. Anyway, testament to you, and a complete opposite piece of dog shit. Dogs at the other end.
Yeah.
So whatever, they will get their comeuppance somewhere or the other. If it's not a physical, if it's somebody will judge them. Somebody stronger and better than us will judge them dogs. Anyway, so moving on, Ray. You told me about your early school days. What was secondary school like for you? As you matured a little bit.
Well, secondary school was the same thing, Joe. I never really. I was always getting caned, always getting whacked around the head. I was getting suffered with migraines. I think migraines was the cause of what happened to me. But I was always suffering with migraines, always getting whacked around the head by the teachers. That caused me more murders. I had a guy called Mr. Maunders across the head with a chair. I waited for him to come through the.
And what age were you then?
9, 10, and done him with a chair.
So you were an handful.
Yeah, I was.
Even at 9-year-old. I mean, it's because every person you've encountered, at this stage, apart from your mother, she's missed something untoward. Unfortunately, she's missed something going on. But other than your mother, everybody else really has almost wanted to hurt you.
Joe,
from the cane to abuse.
It got worse, Joe, because I was getting the cane all the time, and my mum had to come at school because of me being whacked around the head and this, that and the other, and really being abused, and the police were calls about this, that and the other. But one day I walked up to school. I usually walked to school with my mates, four of us. But this particular day, there wasn't no mates with me. I walked up to myself, and there was an old boy, a wheelchair, never forget him. Wheelchair called me over, gave me sweets, and he put his hands down my trousers. Well, that I knew then that it wasn't my joke, you know what I mean?
Yeah, you were alone.
So okay, I went.
Which age are you now?
9, 10. Went to school with my mates. Told them about it. I said, listen, we've got to go sort this out, you know what I mean? So he was sitting outside, and we all started playing around with him. And he said, come on, we're going in the house. And we went in the house. It was only 10, Joe. And we robbed him. We bashed him up terrible. We robbed his money. Like in them days, it was a shilling, 2 shillings.
You overpowered him, yeah?
Yeah, half a crown's, Joe. 5 shillings, you know, 10 shilling notes, Joe, like, so we took all his money, never see him again, Joe, we never see him again, but we then realised that what we're going to do, we should go around the park, Acton Park, and we used to do that, get old boys in the park and do the same thing, Joe. We'd never take them to the house, always bash them up on benches and nick their money. But it was a game, it was like a young game, it was like kids. You're like 6, really, like 10.
So would you be looking out for old noncy paedophiles to do it, or would it be anybody?
It'd be old boys, mostly, because old boys, it seemed to be that it's always the old people that sexually abused me, so I had it in my mind.
So you had it in your mind that most of them, they could have been perfectly fine old gentlemen, but you didn't know that.
Exactly, Joe.
This is the mess and the screw up that it causes, other than the physical.
And you've got to remember, Joe, the first one, I was always believed it was a police officer. Right, so I've always been against police officers, so that's why I've always been.
It's got complications.
Yeah, it's made it worse, Joe.
Because
every time as a kid when I had a row, when a police officer was around, I always chin police officers, and that's why I got
that comes to a load of porridge, which we'll touch on.
Yeah.
So on your first, what me and you would call straight fights. I mean, you're involved in violence, hitting people with chairs from a really young age. And that's perfectly understandable. Now we've had the start. So there's not everybody out there was so well. You could easily address Ray Hill in his, I don't know, in his heyday or in his 30s, 40s, 50s, and say, well, he's a thug. But sometimes there's a story and a moral. Let's have a listen. This is the interesting bit. Of course, we're listening, but it's took us through to a perfectly understanding why violence was in Ray's life.
Yes,
so violence was there. How about the first, what we would call fighters? We are straightener. By preference, we're straightener men.
What, as kids?
Yeah, as a kid. What was your first?
Do you know what, Joe? I used to go down, opposite where I lived in that church where I was a park, yeah? And there used to be fair, the fair there.
Yeah.
About 11, maybe a little bit older. I used to get out of my mum's house, yeah? Climb over the gate to the fair, yeah?
Yeah.
And not paying the money, slip through, yeah?
Yeah.
And I used to work on the guns, collecting the corks.
Oh yeah.
You know, and all them sorts of things, but then me and my mates would walk around the fair and they had a boxing booth in there, yeah? Don't forget about the kids, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
And you get a fiver if you last 3 rounds.
Yeah.
You get a tenner if you can
If you beat the house fight.
Yeah, obviously you can't, I mean with kids.
Kids, yeah.
But I went in the Joe. My mate Leslie McIntyre, black guy,
Yeah.
that I was with, right? He was the same age as me. He went in there and got a fiver.
Yeah.
Right? He lasted the 3 rounds. I thought,
Yeah.
this is it. So I get in there, I get knocked all round again, you know. But I still last for the 3 rounds. I get a fiver.
Yeah.
That is really the first real time that I'm starting to really.
So you're a professional. I say that when you fight for money.
Yeah, for sure.
I had my first fight at 10, I got 50 pence, I think. I had my first fight at 6, but the first time I got paid, I was 10. And
But it is, John.
I'm a professional now.
Yeah.
But for you at home, it's amazing. You were what, 11, 12, you say?
Yeah, 11, 12, yeah.
Now, it's amazing for your viewers at home. It seems extraordinary and almost far-fetched, but trust me, it's not. I can tell you, I'm just doing a story on, what's his name? His name is Digger Stanley. He had a nickname. He was a champion of the world. He was on the booth at 12. The first professional fight, I just done a story on the Orchid Man, George Carpentier, the Frenchman.
Okay.
So these boys, back in the day, trust me, you'd be in a booth at 12. It's happened. We're brutal.
You know yourself. Joe.
You know, yeah, absolutely.
Exactly.
You know? I mean, yeah, absolutely. So
there's no more people in the travellers doing it, mate.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
So, you know, I mean, I could tell you some of my own stories as a youngster.
Exactly.
But if you're a tough young man, it happens, and it happens.
Yeah.
And as your first encounter as a fighter, so how about your actual boxing now? So you had gloves on there, you've had a fight, you've got your few quid, you've got bashed up, you kept going. In credit to yourself. How about your amateur boxing?
Yeah, I used to go to a place called London Transport in Chiswick, and I also go to another club called Hogarth. Harry Holland, do you know Harry Holland?
Yeah, by the old Feathers round of that, round.
It used to be my trainer Harry and Colin Cracknell. I fought Colin Cracknell.
Yeah.
Then I started as an amateur. I had quite a few fights as an amateur. I loved fighting. I loved it. When I first went to the club, you know, you meet people that you think, oh, I'm never going to get in the ring with him. Do you know what I mean? Because he's like knocking people out left, right, and centre. He's really hurting them. You know what I mean? But after a while, when I started going down the pro gyms and all that, then you get comfortable.
You learning and grow.
Yes, I wanted to learn, Joe. You know.
Well, and unfortunately, just like life, for the people, life's experiences. You could be a carpenter, and the only way to learn is by messing up, cutting the wrong piece of wood at 18-year-old. Unfortunately, for boxers, it's punched on the nose or somewhere else, and it hurts. But it's the best way of learning. Harry Holland, a fellow West Londoner, is actually an Hall of Famer, so we well know him. So your first trainer is now a Hall of Fame trainer and promoter with Great British Boxing. So that's good. Let's touch on the fight with Colin Cracknell, because Colin had a fight with one of my, again, we're all West Londoners, Arthur Wells. They had a fight in Brentford Market. But I know Colin was a professional boxer and he come up as a good fighter. What was your fight with Colin?
Well, it was, I got into the market as a young 15, 16-year-old, as a night porter.
Yeah.
Made him out, I was a lot older. There's all stuff outside the stand in Brentford Market. I went into the stand and all of a sudden a guy jumps at the lobby. What are you doing? Everything, you know, and I said, I work in here, mate. He went, my name's Colin Cracknell. This is my place. This is my stall. It's not my stall, but I'm a porter. People be nicking, I'm just waiting for someone to nick it. I thought it was you who was searching, you know what I mean? So now I'm working, and me and Colin got on, but we didn't get on because Colin was a bit of a bully, you know. I used to load the lorries up. I used to work overtime. You know, as a night porter, my time's finished at 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock. Yeah, but I used to work till 12, 1 o'clock, loading the lorries up and could not get a lot of money. You know.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, Colin, you're boxing, you're doing this. Well, I said, yeah, you know, boxing is as you see it as a kid. You can see it in you as a kid. You know, you get little blues under your eyes,
yeah.
and your lips will get cut, and you know, you're walking. You know, you got the walk, you know, you got the talk. And Colin said, come on then, I'll teach you a bit more fighting. Do you know what I mean?
So Colin's a bit older than you, is he?
Colin, yeah, he's about another 7 years old. 6
Oh,
years
right, so he's a fair bit older than you.
Yeah. So
you're a young boy, you're a teenage boy, a young man.
Yeah. So he used to fight a lot of people, Colin, in the market, as you know, the Welleses. I mean, I know all the Welleses, every one of them. All that line.
Big family,
Yeah, big family. And Colin used to be a bully in the market. Colin used to be fighting. There are people in that market he's very aware of, like Gypsy Carlisle, Martin Worsfold, David Pierce. There's a few people in the market that he had to be a bit on his toes.
I remember Brentford Market. Ray's a couple of decades older than me, and that's putting it about right. He's about 20 years older than me, but I was brought up with my dad. I didn't go to school, but I remember Brentford Market's been closed a long time. But there's some right characters in there.
Yeah.
A lot of gambling, a lot of fights.
Everybody in the market, Joe. Everybody from the salesmen could fight. It was a fighting thing, Joe.
Well, you probably had to just stand on and be something. You had to have some character.
That's what I meant thank you. That's what I meant Johnny thank you. And Stevens, because they used to come in every Christmas with the trees. With the trees, you know. And I was, because I was a night porter, I had a lot of time to myself. I wasn't out with Colin, especially in the winter time. I used to go to them and run their trees for them on the ballers. On the hand baller, not the blister, on the hand baller. And put the ball up and all the trees, you know what I mean? So I used to work with them. I said, Les Stevens and Johnny Frankham, I knew quite well, you know what I mean?
Another couple of old men, Les gone, bless him. So how did the fight erupt later with you and Colin?
Well, what it was, we used to fight in the market, one bag glove, one ordinary, nothing.
So one bare knuckle, one glove.
So we was fighting.
So you're more or less fighting near each other.
I would get smashed about a bit, and when I come out, I had promotions, Joe. Anyway, but when I come out of prison, I wanted to do. I was fighting down at Lewisham and all that with all the. But that's going to come later. But when I was fighting down there, I got hold of Colin and I said, "Listen, do you fancy a fight?" He went, "What?" I said, "With me." He went, "Get away," you know, like that. I said, "Come on, we'll have one in the town hall." So I had a show in there, and Bosh, it happened.
Acton Town Hall,
Acton Town Hall, and Bosh, it happened, and good fights in there, some good fights, Joe. But he come out to mug me off, Joe, and he could fight, Joe. You know what I mean?
You gotta know he's a professional with a decent record.
And he hit me on the chin, Joe, and he rocked me out a bit. You know what I mean? And I thought, well, he ain't having this, so I picked him up and napped him. You know what I mean?
Right.
So really, it's illegal. It's illegal fights, Joe. But I nutted him, and he went to the floor and he crawled out the ring. I ain't gonna get in there. I said, "Get in here. We're doing the same thing. Get in." And he wouldn't get in, Joe. You know, but obviously, he hurt me, Joe. You know what I mean? It was a good fight. He hurt me.
So it was 6 and 1 after the other. You've turned it into an all-in fight. He's not expected it. He's doing okay in the Queensbury. So but he was a tough man, as was yourself. So tell me a bit about, just touching on your fights, how many amateur fights had you had approximately?
So I don't know, mate. You know, it's like you in it.
You lose count. I know
you lose count. There's how many fights you got, Joe? He goes on as an amateur. I don't know, maybe 100, Joe. Maybe maybe even less. I don't know, Joe.
So you're not fully. You started boxing at which age?
I'm intermediate, Joe. I'm not open class. I was intermediate.
Yeah. So it sounds like, as you say, you're somewhere around. And had you developed to heavyweight at this stage, or you just
I was always quite big and muscular, Joe. You know what I mean? So even as a kid, you know, I was very muscular.
So at the age of, in the old heavyweight division was lower. So at the age of, say,
about 13, I think about 13 stone, Joe, was the heavyweight.
It was 13 plus in your day.
That's right.
So you would have touched that weight, what, late teens?
Yeah, late teens.
So you're an heavyweight there. So tell me, what happened first prison encounter? How did you get your first bit of porridge? What happened?
When I got my first rounds in the Borstal, as a Borstal, went to Portland Borstal. silly things. Come out to market one day with a mate of mine. I've been stabbed in the market from my knuckle with a meat fork in the calf. I couldn't do nothing really, so my mate said, come on, you fancy doing something? So we nicked a car and went to a few shops and nicked things out of the shops, out of the car full of, in the boot, tobacco and this, that and the other, going down the road. You know, it was more or less, more or less the end place. You know what I mean? So it was, we got nicked and got put in Ashford Remand Centre.
Yeah, I remember that's now a woman's prison.
Yeah. Ashford Remand. And that was it. And I done a good remand in there. I was fighting all the time. I was there when a screw called Hooper, he was a bullied screw in there, Hooper. Yeah. And he got bashed. They got him over in the canteen and chopped half his legs off with a metal tray. It's well known that is, you know what I mean? Some black guys.
There's a bit of violence took place that day. So tell me, I suppose really, like all big criminals, major criminals, don't matter how wide they get, they all start off with something a bit more petty.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You don't find a criminal to go from 18 years old or 22 years old and go right and commit the great train robbery.
Well, in my Borstal, Joe,
it starts off with something.
Yeah, in my Borstal, when I went there, like you had people called daddies in the Borstal, yeah, daddies, right? And daddies used to be bullies. They used to demand things of you and run their wings. And I was in a wing where there was a daddy, a black guy, that ran the wings. Yeah. And you wouldn't get many black guys. There wasn't many black guys around in the Dutch Joe, but when there was quite lumps, you know what I mean? Because they come from Jamaica, straight from Jamaica. It was all big people. And so they was running there, a daddy in there, they'd fight with this black guy. I didn't win the fight. I didn't win it, Joe. But the thing is, he didn't want to fight me again, Joe. He didn't want to fight me again.
So you give enough to deter him, and that's very honest, because you hear so many people now telling stories. Well, I've done this, I've done that, I walked 5 up. But you're very honest in what you've said. But talking about daddies, it reminds me. I don't know if anybody at home have ever watched the film Scum.
Same thing.
Yeah, played a real character of Luke Carlin, come from Wandsworth, I think, around that side of South London. Based on a real character, but he notoriously says, "Who's the fucking daddy?" or something.
That's it. That's Borstals.
Yeah. I mean,
daddy, and then
I thank God I didn't hit the places, but you know, you had to. You can imagine a bully being a bully. Well, you can imagine a young man being a bully with no brains to know otherwise, because you know, in the nicest way, sometimes an 18-year-old might be a bully, but by the time he's 38, he might be the nicest bloke in the world, because all the brains is all over in different parts of the body when you're that age. So you can imagine what's going on.
The funny thing about Borstal, Joe, is because it was one of the places that you become out of there like a soldier. Yeah. So fit, Joe. Yeah. Everything's done regimental. Yeah. So the reason they stopped Borstals was because when people come out of Borstals regimental, they go straight to armed robberies because they're regimental, Joe. Everything's done regimental, you know what I mean? So they become good armed robbers. That is why they stopped the Borstals. Yeah. And then after that, I got a YP. Yeah.
Well, I can imagine. I can see, as you say, the system. One that's not always right. What deters somebody don't always deter another. No. So whilst it's, I've got my notes here, and you at home, one of arguably the most famous unlicensed fighter ever. I can't say he's the best. I'm not going in that field. This gentleman will tell me more. You encountered Lenny McLean. So tell us your physical encounter. How you think you would have done, how you did do with Lenny, you were built to fight him. Tell us a story of you and Lenny McLean.
Yeah, well I was training quite regular at the Beckett, and I met a guy called Jimmy Tibbet. Yeah. Not Tibbs, Tibbet, yeah.
Tibbet, yeah.
So he used to be my manager trainer, and we had a fight, going on. We had one fight, I knocked the guy out. So he said, we'll go down to Rainbow, the Mayfair Tottenham, that's it, Mayfair Tottenham it was. And went in there and I fought a guy called Brian Hall, was an ex-pro, good fighter at Brian Hall. Yeah. And done 8 rounds, 10 rounds of him, it was a draw, but I thought I'll run it, he was facing smashed to pieces. Quite bright, Joe, I've got a good bang, mate.
Yeah, well, hence the name, bang.
Yeah, right. And anyway, it was a draw, I jumped out the ring, and there's a guy, black hair, black jumper, walnut jumper, black trousers, black shoes. He went, I killed him. I'd have smashed him to pieces. I went, who are you then? He said, ain't you heard of me? I'm the governor of Lenny McLean. Never heard of you, mate, and I knew it was.
Right, yeah. So the way you approach it, you just laid it down.
Yeah. I said, don't even know who you are, mate. He went, see you? I said, what? He said, I thought I'd kill you. I'd smash you to pieces. I said, fair play. He said, who's over there? Jimmy Tibbet, he's my manager. Get hold of Vic Andretti.
Yeah.
Vic Andretti
was what his manager
was his trainer.
Trainer, right.
Frankie Warren was his manager. He's related to Frank. His cousin is to Frank.
Oh, was he? Right.
Yeah. He was his manager, and all of a sudden Jimmy arranged it for me to go down a pub called the Ring, yeah, and it would belong to what he called said his name, Vic Andretti.
Right.
And upstairs was the gym.
Yeah.
He's trained there. Nigel Benn, there's a lot of fighters up there, yeah.
Yeah.
I can't remember Nigel Benn, but he might have been there at the time. And went in there. There's
probably a bit premature for like about a decade before.
Yeah. Then he was in the ring, making them sort of noises, not just being flat, all that. And anyway, I was when he got changed, got him with Lenny, and what they said he was, I didn't make him at all. He hurt me lots of times. But and I thought, okay, we kept on going, a few more. Anyway, kept on going a few more times, and about the third time that I was sparring Lenny, I stopped it. I stopped it, they stopped the fight. I was all over him, you know what I mean?
So you felt like you found his number?
Yeah, listen, they made him out to be something that I don't think he was.
How big was Lenny? Because
Lenny then?
Yeah.
He was about same weight as me, 17 and a half stone. He wasn't big then. It's only when he got into the roids.
So he was definitely into steroids, was he? You think?
Oh, well.
I mean, he looked huge. I mean, I've got to say, because I don't like going out to offend people. I like to, I like to pray to God he's in a nice resting place in heaven, and all the bits go with it. I didn't know Lenny, but I like to be nice to people. I did think by his appearance he was on steroids.
He got on the steroids. What's his name? The guy I've had a bit of egg on. Anyway, he got a guy on the doors of him. He got on the guy who went from Mr. Britain, the bodybuilder. He got on with him. He got on Lenny on the voice. He blew up to about 22, 23 stone. A mess.
Yeah,
a big mess.
I mean, he looked the men, you carry an awful lot of power. And it's a different playing field, isn't it? I mean, but I had an experience with a fighter on steroids. He was a British border control fighter. He was a light middleweight, and they used to tap around with him, because light middleweight, so you're heavyweight. You know yourself, middleweights, light middleweights can still hit hard. And they hit you often. So you could tell that he could punch. Just like middleweight couldn't punch for toffee. But game fighter. And suddenly he went on steroids, and he's knocking people out as a cruiserweight. So it just goes to show how the performance.
But you can't lose, Joe. Because of the steroids, it's muscle. And your heart is muscle, so it goes around the heart. So, and that prevents you from breathing, because it tightens the heart up. That's a lot of bodybuilders don't do a lot of cardio, you know what I mean?
So previous to that, Lenny was around
75,
76, 6'2", 6'1", 6'2".
Yeah, he was a big man, mate.
Was he 6'3", 6'2"? How big was he?
That's 6'2". I didn't rate him, Joe. So we tried to get a fight twice, We've tried to get a fight Lenny twice, and twice it never happened, But I'm not saying it's Lenny. It could have been Vic Andretti, and it could have been Frankie Warren. Because once people see someone spar with someone and see that it isn't their own way, people go, he might get in the ring.
The managers are there to very often look after careers. So I mean, of course, as I say to you. I'll ask you the question, your opinion, you'd have handled Lenny, that's Ray's opinion and his knowledge. And I'm not doubting or disputing that. But I'm also not saying, it's not my opinion, it's Ray's, he's encountered it. Roy Shaw I knew a little bit. Tell me about Roy Shaw.
I was down in Beckett.
In fact, I knew him a fair bit. Nice bloke, I thought, Roy. Sadly, I didn't know
nice man, right? I used to go down to Beckett. Jimmy Tibbet was my trainer, manager. And one day I was in there, and he said to me, do you want to have a few rounds? I said, who is it? They said, that guy over there. So I said, who is it? He said, Roy Shaw. And I went, Roy Shaw? Because in prison, right, I know from about Roy.
A massive reputation in prison, didn't
In prison,
yeah.
Roy used to take the doors off, yeah? I used to take the locks off.
Oh, I've been told about Roy.
I used to take the doors off. I used to take the doors off, yeah.
How we done it, I don't know, but he wasn't
the lock?
man, eh?
Do you know the door handle?
Yeah.
I used to whip them off. I used to whip them off, Joe.
Yeah.
He used to take the doors off, I used to take the door
I
handle.
suppose if you got the handle off, you didn't have to take the door off. So, all the Roy fans out there, I think in the nicest way, Ray's acting a little bit more clued up than Roy Shaw. Sorry, Roy, you pass on now, bless you, but just take the handle off, you don't need to do the door.
Yeah. So, anyway, I got in with Roy. He knocked me round the gaff, he knocked me round the place. There was only a little ring out the Beckett. He knocked me round, and then I was sparring every day. One day I sparred with a guy called Lloyd Waltham, black guy, heavyweight. He was a messer. Not a lot of people wanted to fight him.
The spoiler, you mean? Do you mean like he'd tie you up and make Muhammad Ali look a bit ordinary?
I've never ever been banged so hard in my life, yeah?
On the arm as well, too.
He banged me on the chin. I went down. As you know, a lot of times if you get really, really hurt, Joe, you get straight up. That's one of the things. I don't know how it happens, but it is. I got straight up and I had concussion.
It's an instinct, isn't it?
I had concussion, bad concussion. You know, I went to Elephant Castle Station to get a train home, but I lived in Lewisham. I left my car outside the Beckett. I didn't know where I was, Joe.
Concussion, yeah.
But anyway,
it's funny, but it happens, yeah.
Me and Roy had a few rounds. He hurt me a bit, and after 4 or 5 times, me and Roy, same thing.
You found his style. I mean, I can relate to. I've been in with fighters, pros that have found hit hard, a bit awkward, and a few sessions later. A few sessions later you can handle them, don't you?
Yeah, of course.
Well, I found it. I've experienced it myself. The first few sessions, you suddenly find their ways, and you've took. Yeah, so I can see how you can.
I like Roy. I mean, we were talking in the dressing room. He said to me, "What?" I said, "I've had 2 fights now. I've won them both." He reckons, you want to go a long way. He said, "You bang those, you know what I mean?" He said, "Yeah." I said, and it was one of them things, Joe, that I didn't really want to fight him, right? I would have done. I would like to have fought him. I thought I'd have been better because we always do. People go, when they go, the governors, they're not the governors, they're the governors of them two. Roy Shaw and Lenny McLean, they're the governors of each other. Not the governors of the other fighters, Joe.
Okay, right, so you fancy you would have handled Roy?
Yeah, because
you had a bigger reach, you're a bigger man in stature. I mean, he's a very well put together, wasn't he?
I'm a fighter. No one's going to say to me that man's better than me until he can prove that he's better than me.
Well, that's fair enough, and it needs to be proved.
Yeah,
and vice versa in the nicest way.
I ain't going to go,
we can't prove it now,
Joe,
but I mean, it's
a
good debate over a cup of tea or a...
Joe, how many fighters do you know, right, that go, oh, they ain't going to get me in the room and kill me. Joe, they're getting out of the ring, mate.
Well, if you do that, you're not in the right place.
Thanks, Joe.
You know that's why.
That's what it's about.
Yeah,
and we're better. There was about, I reckon it's about 40, maybe even more heavyweights, that they swerved.
Who would have, whilst we're on this subject, Lenny or Roy, who do you think was the best fighter of the two?
Well, it's like everything, isn't it? Roy beat Lenny. Lenny beat Roy twice, yeah. Personally, I think Roy.
What we can do, we can set the record straight. Roy actually asked me, I don't know, I saw him, as I knew Roy, I had the pleasure of meeting him, and he actually asked me, he said, "I'll give you 10k, Joe, if you can find the footage, it's out there somewhere, if you can find the footage of me and Lenny in fight 1 where I beat him." He said, "I'm just sick of seeing the last 2 fights which Lenny won." And he said, "I'll give you 10k, I'm going back some 20 years ago now." He said, "I'll give you 10k if you can find the footage." I couldn't find the footage, apparently it existed. But what we do know, to set the record straight, you guys at home, probably most of you know it, but Lenny won 2 of the fights, Roy won 1. But I must say, in defence of Roy, I must say this. He said when we fought, he said he was, I think he was 13 years his junior, and something like 7. Yeah, well, I think it was 7 or 8.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, so it was a massive advantage. But you know,
did you see the last fight?
Both warriors. Yeah.
Did you see when he was dispatching Roy's head like a punch?
Well, what I can't believe.
That he went no power there, Joe.
What I couldn't believe how many punches Roy took, and there was a little bit of me thought, well, How hard are you hitting, or how tough are you? So it had to equate to one or the other. And for Lenny's fans, let's say he was a very powerful man, and that Rai was a very tough man. So the probable cause there may have been
50,
Rai was extremely tough, but he did get it a lot of hits before he went.
Well, he must have been hit 20 times, Joe.
Yeah, he must have.
He was rocking back and forth, rocking back. Listen, if you do something like that, right? Referee was, but I'm not quite sure who the referee was. I think it was Cliff Fields. I'm not quite sure who the referee was. Or Donny Adams, I'm not quite sure.
Then the unlicensed game, we'd all referee each other, wouldn't we?
Referee each other. That's the game.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. So for me, I'm just putting them down as a couple of legends. I'm pleased they weren't in my era of unlicensed fighting and in race. The next one I'm going to touch on. This was an arch rival. I think I will stand corrected. The next person that Ray encountered. The greatest heavyweight, and by name arguably the greatest heavyweight of all time, Muhammad Ali. His arch rival was Britain's young Joe Bugner, and what I can tell you, I think he had 2 fights with Bugner, I'm fairly sure, and Bugner pushed him close over 15 rounds in Kuala Lumpur for the heavyweight championship of the world. So you're talking about an arch rival of Ali's. You could go the distance with him, no trouble at all. Ali never hurt him, never looked like hurting him, he just beat him on points. And you encountered somebody at this level. Tell us about the sparring.
I used to go down a pub called the Haverstock Hill in the Noble Light pub. It was a border controls gym. You had Bobby Neal go down there, you had Joe Bugner's, Billy Heads, and quite a few Pat McCanns and all them go down there, yeah. And I used to go down there every Saturday or Sunday, yeah. Well, I used to go down with a guy called Farrell McHugh. You know Farrell?
Yeah, I met Farrell. He was a friend of my dad's back in the day, yeah.
He'd tell you about me, Farrell, right? And I used to spar with Farrell. Farrell was about 19 stone.
Another big heavyweight, yeah.
But southpaw, and it got to a stage where I used to kick him out the ring because he was just too tired, he couldn't handle it, bang bang. And I used to kick him out the ring. So one day, my trainer, George Whelan, that is an amateur, George Whelan, every Sunday, go there, and he said, do you want a few rounds? I said, who? He said, Billy Head. Billy Head, southpaw. I went in with Bill.
Yeah, I know Billy, not for I mean, again, out my era, but I knew, nice fella.
So
Skelser, based
that's it. But got in with Bill, and Bill, you know, just pulled me around, you know, taught me a lot. How to pull people around.
The British title challenge.
Yes.
When they were extreme, don't get me wrong, to all the British champions today, they don't give them away, they're very, very hard to win. Yes. They were more hard to win in these days.
Yeah,
the challenge for a British heavyweight fighter.
Somebody at that time, there was too many of them. There was too many heavyweights at that time, you know? And he taught me a lot. He taught me about turning people with their elbows, turning them, bang, hit them on the side. Because he said, if you don't see the punch coming, 9 times out of 10, that's how they get knocked out, yeah? So anyway, I've done quite a few rounds with Billy Head. Obviously, so British champion, European champion, I think he was as well. Taught me a lot, yeah. And one day I went in there, I went with Joe Bugner, and I had 2 rounds with Joe. Worst 2 rounds I've ever had. Joe Bugner hit like a mule. I mean, we had 16-ounce gloves on as well.
Yeah.
He punched me a lot hard, but as an amateur, as a young amateur, I think personally that I'd done really, really well.
Yeah.
Because he was fighting Clay for a title, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I
top of his game.
Yeah.
He's a big man as well.
Massive man. You know, massive man. And he punched, bang, he balls you around, yeah. But Billy taught me a lot, you know, and a couple of times I knocked Billy over. I did knock Billy over with 16-ounce gloves.
Yeah.
He's taught me. Joe Bugner, no.
Taught you too well, but
yeah, exactly. But Joe Bugner, no. But still, I got in the ring with Joe Bugner, and that's something that's I'm proud of, you know what I mean? Pat McCann, I didn't get him in Pat. Me and John O'Gardner. John O'Gardner was an amateur at the same time as me. He was open class, but he had so many sponsors behind him. He didn't work, he just trained.
British champion, and I think, I'm not sure, I don't know if he fought for the world, but he certainly fought one of the world contenders, Jimmy Young, I think.
Yeah.
So, tell me, let's just touch on prison a bit. Who's the, I know you've done, how long have you served, Ray?
26 and a half years.
You've actually in Islam, 26 and a half years. Who's the hardest man you ever met in prison? Just a one off the cuff, without too much thinking, or were there a few?
There were, I mean, Tony Lawrence, Tony Lawrence, one of the maddest guy I've ever met. He was in charge of prison. Ronnie Bender, the Tibbses. It goes on. Who's the hardest man?
Did you, I think you've encountered the company of Charlie Bronson. He's normally in solitary, but you
I see him in Albany. There's a lot come out. I made a mistake saying that he was running around little kids. I made a mistake. I apologise for that. It was something that I shouldn't have said, and that's how it is.
Well, he's a tough man.
Yeah, he's
well,
he's a tough man, but how tough are you when you're in solitary?
Well, you
ain't no one to challenge
yourself to
be.
I read once that he recently went in there, though, he had about 4 people captive, including the prison governor. He's doing all mad things like tickle my feet and all that.
He was kidnapping them, Joe.
Yeah.
Kidnapping them, and you're going into governors and kidnapping the governor. But when you go in the governors, you're not just going to governors by yourself, you're going to governors maybe 2 screws to see the governor.
Yeah.
So he must have also bashed him up. So, as an old man, I mean, he was with the Craigs, wasn't he? He was like one of their heavies, wasn't he?
Yeah, well, he used to send me out, he's actually a very good cartoonist, Mark.
Fantastic.
And he used to send me out these things, and I've...
Keep them, Joe.
And I have kept them, and my wife said to me, I said, it come in the paper once, and I think it was the Sun or the Mirror or something, one of the nationals, and it says, you've got, his work is worth £500 per sort of cartoon postcard. He sent me about 6, which would be like fights, because one of my mates told Curry, my trainer back in the day, befriended him and tried to get him released and whatnot, and campaigning. And he used to send me these things, good luck Joe, and I've been told you're training hard and all this stuff. And I said to my wife, you have kept, which I think I threw him. I said, what? That's a £500 each apparently, back in the day, but going beyond that, I mean, it's just a bit of art. I probably wouldn't get rid of it, He gives them to me. I'm a great believer if somebody gives you something.
Of course,
keep it.
I mean, the work, Joe. Is he ever going to get out? I don't know. Does he ever want to get out? I don't know. He's been out. He wants to go back in.
Well, I personally don't think he does. It's just sad. Do you know what I saw, Ray? You're clearly out, which we'll touch on in a minute. You're out now, and you're clearly wanting to be out. And even during this interview, you're still on probation, probation officer. But I saw another hard man prisoner. I don't think have you encountered Paul Sykes?
Do you know what? No. Everybody's asked me about Paul Sykes. Never encountered him. I believe that then he went down there to fight Paul Sykes, but I don't think he did. Paul Sykes was supposed to be one of the hardest men around.
Well, there's a documentary in Britain's Hardest Prisoner, and what I personally felt sad was, because I've fallen short of the law myself a little bit, and I've done a couple of little bits on remand, and I've been very lucky. I could have got weighed off, but anyway, so very minimal, and thankfully minimal remand sessions. Because trust me, getting locked up over when you're due to go out and meet your wife or girlfriend or family, getting locked up on a Friday, it's painful enough. You've got to come out on Monday. It's a really great thing. But one of the saddest things I'd seen about the Britain's Hardest Prisoner documentary, Paul Sykes, was he looked ever so relaxed, he's stirring his tea, his feet was up, it just looked like he was so at home, and it looked like he was almost a bit institutionalised. But when he come out, he then hit drink heavy. I think he went back to his old fighting ways a bit, but he didn't get any more porridge beyond that. But I think he found his comfort in drink, and I found it a bit disappointing that he had to. I mean, I like a drink. Most of us like a drink, but I mean, I think he was soaking in the stuff.
Tell you what, Joe,
when he come to his death, which I found a bit sad, really.
Well, when you say the hardest men in prison and all that, Joe, there's people in prison that can have a well, and there's people in prison that can't have a well. But a lot of them people that can't have a well, they're very, very dangerous, Joe.
Oh yeah, I mean there's ways of handicap, we'll touch on some of that in a minute, there's ways of levelling things up it's called handicapping in racehorse terms, but in violent world there's ways of levelling things up.
Sure.
Before we move on, who's the hardest man, so put them all in collectively, who's the hardest man, including Lenny, including Joe Bugner, including Ryan, including all these prisoners, who's the hardest man you've ever met? Either you're aware of his reputation, or you've had a physical encounter, i.e. in a street fight or
do you know what, one of the hardest men I've encountered was Jimmy Tibbet. Jimmy Tibbet, a very old man, he's in the Guinness Book of Records for knocking somebody people out with a right hook or left hook.
Well, you can see it in his face, he's a hard
he
man
was
as well.
a very, very old
Yeah.
man.
I've seen images of him, I didn't know the man, but yeah.
Cliff Fields.
Another big tough man. Sparred with Muhammad Ali.
I sparred with
Had a
Cliff.
fight with him actually,
You
exhibition,
know what I
right?
mean? So I know, I've had fights with Cliff, you know what I mean? So I know exactly how it is.
Was Joe Bugner beating a lot of them?
It's a different kettle of fish, Joe, isn't it?
Got to be proven, in your opinion.
Yeah, but I think the difference between a pro and a street fighter, pro's the proper man, mate.
He does it all day, every day, you know.
Professional
Yeah,
person.
and
He
you
does
can
hours.
imagine, you can imagine the people at home, you can imagine that a bar brawl erupts and somebody takes a massive big right hander and 4 or 5 stitches, it's deemed as violence. These guys get it all day, every day as part of their
They
training.
do 1,000 hours, Joe.
Yeah.
They might do 1,000 hours for the fight, before a fight. Come on, mate. It's just. And
very often.
A normal fighter would do what, 2 hours a week. They're doing thousands, Joe.
They're doing something like, we worked it out, I haven't got the stats in front of me, but it's 100-fold, I think you do about 100-fold sparring for the actual fight you do. Yeah, so
that's what I'm saying.
So there.
A good pro smash.
So who are we going then? Lenny McLean, Joe Bugner, Rice Short?
I should imagine Bugner. Mate.
Well, let's put it this way, 2 of the greatest heavyweights of all time, it's not a bad call.
Yeah.
Muhammad Ali could not get rid of him, neither could Joe Frazier get rid of him. I mean, he's the only fighter to date to go the distance with both Joe Frazier and Ali.
And I think
it's not such a poor call.
John Gardner, number one.
Yeah, another tough man.
Number tough man.
But we fancy Bugner just a bit above. Yeah.
Bugner was the governor.
Yeah. Well, if he'd have been in a weaker era, he'd have probably been a champion of the world.
Of course he would.
But he'd be making 2 of the governors.
Yeah, of course.
Right. So. What I'm going to bring to attention, we nearly touched on it just then. I myself, over my time, I mean, because I was a knuckle fighter and a boxer and a sport.
Yeah.
I deemed it a sport.
Okay.
I mean, I could go out and have a straightener with somebody. I wouldn't be fucking angry with them. I just, excuse my French, I just want to beat them and play the game,
sure,
cat and mouse. Yeah. So, and like yourself, I think your probably your preferred way of doing it was with your hands.
Yeah.
But have you had any? Tell me, have you had encountered anything where your muscle, your reputation has gone before somebody and suddenly a knife, a weapon or a gun's come out in your presence? Has that ever happened to you?
Yeah, Joe, lots of times.
Yeah?
Lots of times I've been shot at. I mean, my father-in-law shot at me a couple of times, tried to kill me. My father-in-law, you know what I mean? I've been shot at down where I was working, Crispin's wine bar.
But the same man that gave his daughter away to marry her?
Yeah,
want to kill you.
Same man. Yeah, same man.
Yeah.
Mickey Johnson, well-known gangster, one eye, very dangerous man. Didn't realise he was that dangerous. I mean, he came to shoot me. He hit my shoulder. I went down, but it was lucky, Joe, because if I hadn't gone down, gone down and got up, he'd have come over and put one in me, right? Because
Did you play dead?
No.
Did you pretend you were down?
No, I went down, Joe.
Oh, you got shot?
I got shot in the shoulder.
Oh, sorry.
It didn't go in my shoulder. It clipped my shoulder, Joe.
Yeah.
And the power of the gun knocked me on the floor.
Right.
So I've got up.
He now make you think you're gone, does he?
Yeah, he's coming towards me, but there's a guy just come out of a curry shop, Indian shop, with a bag, getting in his car. My father-in-law thinks he's with me. He puts him on the floor, puts a gun in his mouth, the guy's crying his eyes out.